Welcome to Workshop Topics. This is all about buying a Myford lathe. Part 1. Having a look at the lathe for the first time, and after running it to hear what it sounds like, checking to make sure that all the parts are there. I already have a Boxford lathe, so why do I want to buy a Myford lathe? Very simple really. I make tutorials for beginners, and quite a lot of these beginners contact me and ask me what's the best lathe to buy for a beginner. When I was a beginner, the first lathe that I bought was a Unimat 3, a really tiny little thing. It was okay, but in common with a lot of these mini lathes that are around today, it was far too small. I remember a friend turning up and asking me to turn some axles for a trailer he was making, and the Unimat went through 6 belts doing that. After the Unimat, I bought a South Bend lathe which was so far past its sell-by date it was scary. Then I bought a good lathe called a Holbrook, but eventually I splashed out and bought a brand new ML7R, similar to this one except it was green. This particular ML7R is just what I want. It's not on a cabinet stand, I need it to fit on one of the side benches in the workshop, so this particular machine ticks a lot of the boxes. I have a friend who lives just down the road who's called Dennis. Dennis mentioned a while back that a friend of his had died a couple of years ago, and his widow wanted to sell the lathe, and here I am in the shed looking at it. It's a single-phase lathe, and the contactor and reversing switch were hidden behind the lathe at the right-hand side. I was initially told that this was a Super 7 lathe, but it isn't. It's an ML7R which has a clutch like a Super 7, but it doesn't have the advantage of a power feed to the cross slide. What I'm doing at the moment is listening to the lathe. Everything sounds quite good. I've engaged the lead screw, and as you can see, the saddle is moving towards the chuck. You can also see that it's fitted with a vertical slide, ideal for milling in the lathe. My friend Roger, who's a retired professional machinist, used to make quite wonderful things on his Myford using one of these vertical slides. Personally, I don't like them, I prefer a milling machine. In this clip, I'm testing the traverse in a reverse direction, and everything's looking good. No smell of burning or anything like that, and the sound of the lathe is very good. The only thing I can find wrong with it so far is the fact that the bracket that holds the far end of the lead screw needs tightening to the bed. Oh yes, and it's been fitted with a green, windy handle thing at the end. Now it's time to get serious. Whenever you check out the functionality of a lathe, don't worry too much about backlash, that is a fact of life, but you must wind the saddle all the way along the bed, and if it tightens up at all, that usually means that the bed is worn where the saddle moves freely, and that is usually at the chuck end of the bed where the saddle is moved back and forth a lot over a very small area. This particular lathe feels great. There is no tightening whatsoever. As I wind the handle, it feels just the same at the right hand side as it does near the chuck. This lathe is in very good condition and it's completely free of rust, and I'm very interested in buying it. The lathe is sat on a welded frame, which in turn sits on quite a substantial low bench. And in a drawer on the front of this low bench I find these. I can see the compound slide, and I can also see a spare cross slide. I've removed the vertical slide and put that in the drawer so I wouldn't lose it. This is the original tool post that fits on the lathe. I really do not like these kind of tool posts with lathe tools sticking out all over the place. I will fit a quick change tool post. Here's the vertical slide that was fitted on top of the lathe when we arrived, and here is the spare cross slide. And there's another cross slide in there, but I don't know what that's for. Right at the back of the drawer is a plastic box. I wonder what's in here. This is looking very encouraging. I wondered where the change wheels were. These change wheels are for thread cutting. They alter the speed of rotation of the lead screw relative to the spindle speed. For general model engineering, I really don't need to do much screw cutting using the lead screw. I have plenty of ME type and BA taps and dies, as well as some metric ones too. A quick check, the chuck key's there, so is the tailstock chuck, and the one on the right hand side is for the 4-jaw chuck. When you go to look at a machine or go to look at anything that you're thinking of buying, try and avoid getting excited, because if you get excited you will miss something. I don't know what this little lever is, maybe it locks the headstock, I can't remember, it's a long time since I had a Myford. I moved it out of the way and closed the cover. I'd seen more or less what I needed to see. The lathe is fine, it's just what I want, so I went up to the house, and offered the lady a price for the lathe. My friend commented that he didn't think I was going to offer that much, but I really am not into ripping off 90-year-old ladies. From my friend first mentioning this lathe, I spent a bit of time looking at sold listings of Myford ML7s, Super 7s and ML7Rs. It's very important to not be taken in by the adverts for Myford lathes on eBay. What you need to do when searching on eBay is use the advanced search, type in what you want to search for and click sold listings. By doing it that way, you will see only listings that have sold, not the ones that are put up there usually by dealers or dreamers at very inflated prices. This applies to just about everything on eBay. In the end, I made a realistic and fair offer to the lady, but I wanted to take everything in the shed, including some things that I really didn't need, but if I didn't take them, they'd just be thrown away. I have a disabled friend and I often give him bits and pieces to put on eBay to help him out financially. I'm pleased to say that the lady accepted my offer, and I'm picking up the lathe and all the ancillary equipment in the shed next Tuesday. I couldn't find a faceplate, but I've never had one of those, but I found a 4-jaw chuck. Here it is, a little bit on the rusty side, but nothing that won't clean up. What I'm going to do next Tuesday is go over there early in the afternoon to sort out all the bits and pieces and put them in my car. I'm also going to unbolt the lathe from the bench, disconnect the electrical circuits. Then a man and a van will arrive, and between us we will move the lathe into his van, which in turn will transport the lathe to my workshop. All good fun. And that's it for this episode. I'd just like to say always be careful and do not get excited when you buy any second-hand items, because if you do, you will probably miss something important. Stay healthy, thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.